Good morning. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann. Today I'm doing my overdue January wrap-up, but at least I'm getting to it before April, right? So in January I read 9 books in total. So I'll just go in order, I guess. So the first book that I finished in 2022 was The 10,000 Doors of January by Alix Harrow. That was just a great way to start off my year. It is a portal fantasy. We follow a main character, January, who doesn't really know much about her past. She's been essentially raised by a rich collector. Her father has been sort of in and out of her life during her childhood and adolescence because he works for this rich collector. And over the course of the book, we see her starting to really question the mysteries in her life and start to discover really who she is and where she came from. And it's fantastic, and in all senses of the word, because it was a really good book, and it's also fantastical. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's a little bit historical fiction, I guess, as well as the portal fantasy. I would have a hard time pinning down the exact years, I guess, but maybe like late 19th century, early 20th. I think maybe there's a car at some point, but yeah, so we get a little bit of that sort of era, as well as some fantasy. So yeah, I just really loved it. It was a great story about family and finding your family. So it's been all over BookTube, so I won't say too much more about it. I'm sure anyone watching this video has at least already heard about it, and so I'm just chiming in to say that I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then the second book that I read was the first in a trilogy, and I read the entire trilogy in the month of January, so I'll just talk about them all at once. That trilogy is adult contemporary romance, and it's Accidentally in Love by Nicole. The 3 books in the trilogy are Adore You, Smitten, and Then Came You. I did review this trilogy in a separate standalone video, so I will link to that down below. And I just really enjoyed these romances. I thought they were really well done. They are pretty short. They're not, full, hefty novel length, like 300-400 pages. But yeah, they were the sort of thing where if you really just want to escape into somebody else's love life for an evening, I think that's what I used it for. I read it on a road trip. I read one of them on a road trip in the evening. The other 2 I spread out a little bit, but yeah, so I just really enjoyed them. You can go check out the review. The first book in the trilogy was my favorite because it was a friends to lovers trope. So the 2 main characters had been childhood friends and had known each other for a really long time, and that's a trope that just works really well for me because I tend to find those romances more believable, that after having that connection you would fall in love really quickly, and sort of commit to something romantic really quickly. So I really liked that, and I thought that storyline was well done. And just in general, the characters were great. They all have strong friend groups. They all have strong family ties. So it was just, yeah, it was just really cool to see characters like that on the page. So. Oh, and I read that as part of the Black Author Tuber Readathon, which was hosted by Margaret and me a teeny bit, but mostly Margaret. So I will link to her channel down below. And we just did our wrap-up party the night before I'm filming this. We did our wrap-up on Tuesday, March 15th. So that was an hour-long show, and we had 6 people who had all read books by Black author tubers in the month of February. And so we sort of did a overall summary, quick reviews of all the books that we read across a whole ton of genres. We also had fantasy and sci-fi and poetry and well, maybe that was basically it, but there were different flavors within, like, especially within the fantasy, there were a lot of different flavors of fantasy in there. So definitely a good thing to check out if you want to hear a little bit about all the books that people read during that readathon. And I guess, well, this isn't a TBR video, but I should say that I was really intrigued by reviews that other people gave of books in that readathon, and I didn't read everything, of course, on our list of options because there's a lot more books, but I am going to continue working through some of those authors and some of those books, because we also shouldn't just be reading books by Black authors and lifting up Black voices in February. We should be doing it year-round. So I'm trying to treat it as like February was sort of the kickoff and a time to focus on it. But now that I have this great list of authors that that other booktubers and author tubers read, and I can pick which ones I like and that sort of thing, that I'm going to continue with that project. So, okay. Then the next book I read was Dead Until Dark, the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse vampire series by Charlaine Harris. And this was part of the Out of the Coffin read-along, which is hosted by Amy at BookTube with Amy and Ange at Ange's Book Chatter. And it's been a fun read-a-thon, read-along so far. There is a Discord that I haven't been super active in, but I'd like to get into it more because I have continued, and I read the second book in February. So yeah, so we're reading the Sookie Stackhouse novels this year together, and it's been fun and a good excuse to actually like dive in and do that series so I can just sort of see what that part of like contemporary culture is like. So yeah, Dead Until Dark. So I did enjoy it, but it didn't blow me away, and I was sort of expecting it. I have seen the first season or 2 seasons of True Blood, and yeah, it's a good story. It's a fun time. I like that it's a blend of sort of really imagining what it might be like if it turned out that vampires were real and trying to balance that with modern society. There's also a bit of a murder mystery in each one, I think. There certainly was in the first 2. So yeah, definitely enjoyable. There's just some dynamics of the relationship between Sookie Stackhouse and her lover Bill, and of course between her and some of the other vampires, where those dynamics bother me. And it does make sense because fundamentally humans are prey, vampires are predators, so you're not really gonna have like the most healthy romantic relationship. But yeah, so some of the ways that was handled didn't sit quite right with me, which is mostly, I guess, probably a me problem and not the book problem, because she is writing about predator-prey relationships. So anyway, yeah, but so I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I read the second book a bit late. I just finished it in March, but I am planning to continue with the series and the read-along. So come join in if you want. I will link to the channels down below. Okay, and then I read Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan, which is, I think it was number 10 in the Wheel of Time series, which was a reread for me, but it's been a very long time. And I'm buddy reading this with an off-booktube friend in real life, which is very fun. And yeah, and I enjoyed this one. There's a lot of action. Some of the bigger plot lines got moved along a little bit. There weren't as many like slow parts of the book, which if you've read Robert Jordan, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so I enjoyed it. It had a really long prologue. The prologues, man, I just started book 11 and I am still in the prologue, which is fine. I like catching up with all of these characters, and I like catching up with lots of minor characters, because he'll do like sort of snippets of what lots of secondary characters are doing in the prologue, just to give a snapshot of like where the world is at the time that the major action of the book is starting to unfold. So I do like those prologues, but they're long. Okay. Then I read Flying Too High by Kerry Greenwood, which is the Phryne Fisher series. This was book number 2 in the Phryne Fisher series. I listened to this on audio, and it's Phryne Fisher. It's amazing. I think the person on BookTube who talks the best about Phryne Fisher is Rosie Cockshut. So if you don't already know her channel and you're interested in Phryne Fisher, you should go look for Phryne Fisher on Rosie's channel, because she talks about her all the time. But yeah, this is cozy mystery. Phryne is a very liberated, wealthy woman in 1920s Australia, and she's solving mysteries. And so in this one we have, and I think, well, at least in the first book and in this one, there's often like a couple different things going on. And so in this one, there's a murder mystery that she's solving. It's her primary case, but then along the way, she finds a kidnapped child and rescues that child. And so, yeah, she gets a lot done in a very charming, lovely way, and her supporting cast of characters are also charming and lovely. So, yeah, just really well written, very cozy, totally just like great to listen to when you're in the car, which is what I did with the audiobook. So, yeah, I love Phryne Fisher. Okay, and then I read A Spell for Chameleon by Piers Anthony, because John at Hey Y'all Listen Up talks about Piers Anthony in every single video. And well, at least I guess he doesn't always talk about Piers Anthony when he's doing a review of like a specific other book, but I feel like even then sometimes he works Piers Anthony in. So anyway, I was like, I've got to give this Xanth series a try. And I did have a used copy of A Spell for a Chameleon sitting on my shelf that I picked up at a used book sale a while ago. So I gave it a try and I really enjoyed it. So definitely not like 5-star blow me away fantasy reading it in my mid 30s, but if I'd read it as a teenager, I think I probably would have really loved it. And even now, it was a solid 4-star read. I really enjoyed it. So we follow the main character who is really struggling because in his world of Xanth, everybody manifests a specific magical power, or a unique but very specific magical power, as they sort of come of age. And he's the only kid in his village who hasn't done that. And so now he's old enough that that's really a problem. And in his society, if you don't manifest a magical power, you do get kicked out into the world of the mundanes, the non-magical people. And so he's facing that, and he really doesn't want to do it. He's a teenager with raging hormones. He's in love with one of the girls in the village, and it's his home. And so he goes off on a quest, which is the story in the book, to try to get to like the head wizard who will hopefully be able to help him. So yeah, it was very fun. He's just on a quest. He's running into all kinds of problems and magical creatures, and I really enjoyed it. And I will continue with the series because I already have book 2 sitting on my shelf. Okay, and then finally, I read Stamped: Racism, Antiracism, and You by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi, and I did review that in a standalone video that I will link down below. But Stamped was really cool. It is a YA version of Ibram X. Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning, his retelling of history from centering race and from an anti-racist perspective, which I haven't read, but reading the YA version, I definitely really want to. So the YA version I just thought was lovely. It was very to the point. The writing was very clear, very concise. I just basically sat down and read it in a day. Because it was just so readable. Like I couldn't put it down and I was learning so much. So highly recommend that. If that intrigues you, you can go see my review down below where I read a couple little snippets from the book that just really, that I really enjoyed, and I talk more about that book. So that was a great step in my anti-racist education. So, okay, that's what I read in the month of January. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's what I read in the month of January. I will be back hopefully before April with my February wrap up. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.